Hello and welcome to Rathod Science Academy. Today in this session we are going to see current affairs of 16th September 2025. So let's get started with our discussion and let us see the first article, guys. So look at the title of this first article. SC, that Supreme Court stays arbitrary WACC changes, upholds Act. So this article, it is not a new article. So actually it is the updation of the current affairs regarding this WACC Amendment Act. Okay, so here what you have to see is, the first important point that you have to see is what is the meaning of WACC, and next you have to see who will control this WACC properties, and next you have to see what are the recent changes that we made, and next you have to see what Supreme Court is saying now and what is the impact of this Supreme Court's intervention in this WACC amendment. Okay, so first one you have to know about what is WACC, and next you have to see about recent amendment, and now you have to see what Supreme Court said now, and next what is the impact of this. And you may get a mains based question regarding this topic, guys, and this topic is important from your polity, governance, and it is also important from society point of view. Okay, so actually this work is related to Muslim properties. So is there any article in our fundamental rights talks about religious freedom? Yes, we have certain fundamental rights which are talking about this religious freedom, Article 25, Article 26, like that, right? So here, because of these changes that we came up in this work, it is impacting this articles, fundamental rights related to religion. So because of this is important from your polity point of view. And government is changing certain changes in this work so that it wants to better maintain this work properties. So that is important from your governance from GS paper 2 point of view, and it is having impact on this Muslim society in our country. So because of this, it is having this important from your society from GS1 and GS2 point of view. So from all these subjects that we have to see, and even you have to see about what is the role of Supreme Court, and it is also important from your polity point of view. Okay, so now let us see the basics. So actually what happened in the recent is, on September 15th, a bench led by Chief Justice of India said that some changes that we made in this work recently, some are arbitrary. That means some we can't go with. Only some changes we can follow it. That is a thing which mainly said by this Supreme Court. The Supreme Court wants to stop certain criteria which came up in the recent amendments, and Supreme Court want to allow certain criteria which is we came up in this recent amendment. We have to see what are these recent amendments, and you have to see which thing had been stopped and which thing has been upheld by the Supreme Court, guys. Okay, first of all, what is this WACC? WACC is nothing but it refers to properties donated by Muslims for religious, charitable, and some purpose under Islamic law. So under Islamic law, we have Sharia law, right? So according to this Sharia law, Muslims, they will donate certain properties for the religious purpose. For example, they may construct a mosque, they may construct a dargah, or like they will keep certain space for cremation of dead bodies. So like that, Muslims will donate certain properties according to this Islamic law for religious purpose or for charitable purpose or for pious purpose. That is nothing but for this cremation purpose. So in India, they are managed by Waqf boards. So who will manage this Waqf properties? Waqf board will be managing it. And actually you will be surprised to see that this Waqf board is managing the properties which is the third largest land holdings in our country. So first largest land holdings will be there for railways, and second is defense. After that, this Muslims are holding most of this Waqf properties, guys. So this will be managed by Waqf boards. And we came up with this original Waqf Act in year 1995. And this act will be governing about this registration of Waqf properties to avoid any misuse of this Waqf properties. So these are the basic things. Now you know about what is this Waqf, and you know about who is controlling this Waqf. and as well as which act is there now in our country which is maintaining this Waqf properties. So actually recently in 2025 we came up with amendment to this Waqf Act. It is called as Waqf Amendment Act of 2025, and we made certain changes. So what changes we made? We removed Waqf by user. So actually without proper registration, without proper papers also, some Waqf properties are managing. So we have to remove that. So if there is a right registration and we need right papers for that so that we can include them into Waqf property. So if there is no proper registration, proper papers regarding that, we cannot say that Waqf. Okay, so we have to remove that, the first one. And second point here is they said district collectors have now the power to decide if the land is belonging to Waqf or government. And next one is in that Waqf board which is controlling this Waqf properties, normally it will be like only Muslim members will be the members. So now we said that even non-Muslim members need to be included in this Waqf boards. That is the third important change. And next one here is, according to this new amendment, we said that Waqf creators to be practicing Muslims for at least 5 years. The persons who are donating this land or whatever the properties to this Waqf, they should be compulsory Muslim and they have to practice this Islam for at least minimum 5 years. Then only they are eligible to donate the property. And next one is, we need stricter registrations and as well as proper audits regarding this Waqf boards. So these are the important 5 changes we made to this Waqf Amendment Act now. Okay. So why? Because of these changes, now Muslim groups and even opposition parties and activists, they are challenging this in Supreme Court because they are saying that it is violating rights, fundamental rights. Which right exactly? Article 26. Article 26 talks about freedom of managing of their religious affairs, and this Waqf properties comes under their religious affairs, right? So this Article 26 is violating, so please check this. So they filed a petition and they challenged this amendment in Supreme Court. Okay. And actually they are having a fear that there will be the grabbing of Waqf lands by the government, and even there is also some allegations that there will be the misuse of the power, and they will also claim this Waqf properties as a government land. So because of this, they challenged this amendment in the Supreme Court. So actually why this changes suddenly came up in 2025? What is the reason behind it? So if something happens, then only we will take some measures, right? So what happened in this Waqf? Why government came up with this amendment? The reason here is, just from 2013 to 2024, they added over 20 lakh acres of this land under this Waqf properties. So because of this drastic change, so government wants to control this proper registration and kabja. You know this word kabja, right? So they are doing this kabja. So they want to stop this. So because of this, government came up with this act. So now you know the background, why it is happening and what changes we made, right? So now let us see what are the provisions which are stayed. Stayed means nothing but stopping for the temporary period, right? So here let us see what are the provisions in that amendment which gave stay. So first one here is, now I said the power is now given to district collectors to decide which is the Waqf property and which is not. So here the power of district collectors to decide this Waqf status or change of revenue records, now it will be done by only courts have that authority, not the district collectors. That is the thing which mainly said, and on this provision, so Supreme Court gave the stay, first one. And second one is the rule that Waqf creators must prove their practiced Islam for 5 years. So again it is on a stay. Why? Because we don't know like on what basis we will decide whether that person is following this Islam for last 5 years or not. So we need to come up with a clear laws. Until then it is given stay. Okay. And next one is no full stay on Muslim, non-Muslim on boards, but limited them. So maximum 4 out of 22 in Central Waqf Council, maximum 3 out of 11 in state boards. So actually in this Waqf boards also they said that we need to include this non-Muslims. So who are these non-Muslims, like Hindus or Christians or who? So there is no clarity. So because of this they gave the stay. So on these 5 amendments or 5 things, on these 3 they got the stay. And next one is what are the upheld provisions? So they said that yes, we have to delete this work by user. If they are not having proper papers or registration, we can take it out. And second one is they said that mandatory registration of works, complete registration of that work should be happen. So then only we can consider that area as work, or else it cannot. And next one is there is no change to rules on protected monuments or tribal lands. So in the tribal areas, whenever we are going for this conservation of this tribal culture, tribal rights, everything, so in that areas there should be no change in this protected monuments. And this one here is no third party sales or rights on disputed work lands until court decide finally. So whenever we have any dispute regarding whether it is work land or government land or Hindu temple or like that, if you have any dispute, that land should not be sold or bought until the final judgment comes from the court. So these are the things which are said, yes, it's we have to do by the Supreme Court. And earlier three, they said that we have to stop it temporarily before complete clear guidelines comes. Okay, so this is about this topic, guys. It is very important from your mains point of view. Okay, and now let us see the next article. See the title. Amid an export surge, trade deficit falls by 54%. What is this article talking about? The keyword is trade deficit. So what is this trade deficit? What is the meaning of this? So trade includes what? Exports and imports. So in this trade topic, we will be coming across two keywords, trade surplus and trade deficit. What is this trade surplus and trade deficit? So if you see surplus means more, right? So we will export more compared to that of our imports. So this condition is called as trade surplus. What about this trade deficit? It is opposite. So we are importing more compared to that of the exports. This condition is called as trade deficit. So actually this article is saying that there is how much percentage of trade deficit? 54% of trade deficit. Is that good for the country? So what will be the impact of this trade deficit? We are importing more, means we have to pay more. So if we have to pay more, what about our foreign reserves? Will be increasing or decreasing? Yes, decreases. And next we are importing more. That means we are focusing on getting from other countries. So we are not focusing on our domestic industries, right? Then what happened? Production increases or decreases? Production decreases. That will lead to decreasing of our domestic contribution to our GDP. And next, if you are not producing more, what happens to employment? Can we employ more people? No. That will lead to decreasing of employment, leads to rising of unemployment rate in our country. Is next. So if you are not producing more in our country, can we attract investments from foreign countries? It will be having impact on investments. So how many types of investments we have? Domestic investments, foreign investments. In foreign investments we have FDI and FPI or FII, right? So that will be getting affected. And what about Indian rupee value? So here we have to give more amount of dollars, more number of dollars to other countries. They will not accept our Indian currency, right? Rupee. So because of this, there will be increase in the demand for what? Rupee or dollar? Yes, there will be increase in demand for dollar. So because of this, what happens on this rupee value? Increase or decreases? Yes, decreasing of rupee value. That condition is called as appreciation or depreciation? Yes, depreciation. So there will be depreciation of Indian currency. So we have all these kinds of impact just because of decreasing of trade deficit. And now you guys think like what are the steps we can take to control this trade deficit? Can we control this trade deficit or not? How? First one is India will be importing which goods more? Crude oil, gold imports. So we have to control that. How can we control this crude oil imports? We have to go for 20% of ethanol blending. Yesterday's article we discussed about this 20% of ethanol blending. And next one is rather than using of this crude oil, we have to go for using of renewable energy. So for this renewable energy, which kind of vehicles we can promote? Electric vehicles and even solar powered vehicles. Yes. And next, what can we do? For increasing of production in our country, which scheme government is focusing on? In yesterday's class, white goods, which program? Yes, we can promote this PLI or we can enhance this PLI to different sectors of our country. Next, what can we do? So we have to increase our exports. That means we have to reach the new markets. How we can reach the new markets? FTAs, right? Free trade agreements. Next, employment. What can we do? Which scheme we came up with recently? ELI, employment in linked incentive scheme. So we have to enhance that. And next, in the people, in the students, what we have to do? We have to impart skill. So is there any government schemes that which are focusing on skill? Skill India Mission, and we have training programs, vocational training programs, and even government is coming up with lots of internship programs. Okay, can we improve education standards in our country? We have to update our education standards. So everything you have to see here and there, everywhere, and try to think in a multi-dimensional manner. Don't limit yourself as a narrow-minded. You should be like a broad-minded. Okay, so you have to think in all these dimensions, guys. Okay, clear? And this topic is very important from your in economy point of view. You may get like mains and even prelims based question here. And let us see the next article. See the title. India is lagging in women's representation politics. So what is this article talking about? What is the keyword, guys? What is the keyword? Women in politics, right? Okay, so what is this article talking about? We have more representation or less representation. So this article is saying that we are having less representation of women in politics. So if you see in India, we have three tiered structure, right? We have center, we have state, and we have local level. So in central level, we have parliament, we have Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, right? So they are nothing but MPs, members of parliament, member of Lok Sabha or member of Rajya Sabha. At state level, what we have? MLAs, member of legislative assembly, if that states are having bicameralism, that is two houses, assembly and council. We have even MLCs, MLAs and MLC. Have you heard this? And at the local level, we have panchayats and municipalities. In panchayats, you might have heard about the sarpanch, and here in municipalities, we have mayors. Yes, right? So at all these levels, this article is saying that there is a very low representation of women. Okay, now what you have to say, you have to collect data. First important thing, like how much percentage of women are there in this MPs, MLAs, MLCs, and even panchayats and municipalities in each and every tier. So what is the percentage of women's contribution? And second important thing you have to see is what are the reasons why there is less women participation here. And third one is you have to see about what are the steps taken by the government so far to improve women's participation. And even you can add certain case studies, like you can compare India's women participation in politics with China, at least with our neighboring countries like Bangladesh, Pakistan, Nepal, Bhutan, Myanmar, and with some developed countries like US, European countries. Okay, so like that you can collect a case study. Okay, that is your wish. At least 2 to 3 countries you have to see from our neighboring and as well as from developed countries. So normally whenever we talk about developed countries, we will be taking USA, Japan and Russia. At least these 3 countries with which we are having good relations and often they will be seen in news. And next you have to see from your side what suggestions that you can give to the government to improve women's participation in this politics case. So all these areas that you have to see, and whatever the data that you are collecting here and even case studies, that will be very useful for writing your essay, guys. Don't forget this. And even whenever you're writing your introduction of any answer, you can start with that data itself, okay, such that it can create a very good impression. Okay, so now let us see the context. India has made some progress in women's political participation, especially at local level. At local level, yes, we are doing good. Some improvement that you are seeing. But at the state level and at the central level, we didn't had that much improvement, guys. And even India is lagging behind the global standards in higher legislative bodies like parliament and state legislative assemblies. We are lagging behind, but in the local bodies, yes, we are doing good comparatively, but we are not doing good in this parliament and legislative assemblies. So if you see the data, if you want, you can make a note. In Lok Sabha, that is a lower house of parliament, as of 2025, just 13.6% of seats they are occupied by women, and remaining how much percent? 87, around 86 to 87% they are occupied by men. And next, in the Rajya Sabha, women occupy 13% of seats. 31 out of 245 seats are occupied by women. And in this legislative assemblies, just 9 to 10% nationally across India. So if you take on average, just 9 to 10% are occupied by women. And highest percentage is seen in Chhattisgarh state is around 18 to 20%, and even in West Bengal around 15%. But the lowest is seen in Nagaland, it is 0%. You can see this tragedy of women in Nagaland, 0%. And even Mizoram, it is very, very minimal. Okay, so this is the data which says that very less participation of women in politics. So what are the reasons? The first one is our society. Our society is male dominant society, which is called as patriarchal society. And even we have gender norms. So the work of men is to earn, to do economic activities, and the work of women is to sit and cook in the home and to provide the care. So because of this reason, because of this male domain society, women are not coming forward. That is the first important reason. And next one here is there is lack of family and societal support. So women often, they lack this family support. No one will be encouraging women to entering into politics. And only the people who are coming from this political dynasties, like daughters or wives of politicians, they will get the opportunities, but not a common woman. And this one is party politics and ticket distribution. So whenever the political parties they gave tickets, they will offer very less number of tickets for women. In 2019 elections, only less than 10% of tickets were offered to women. And next one here is why they are not giving these tickets is they will be having a doubt that women can win these elections or not. There is always a question about winnability of a woman. So because of this reason, political parties they will not offer more number of tickets for women. And this one is even women they will face financial and resource barrier. So if they want to do campaigning, you know that campaigning is not that much easy. It will includes they have to spend lot of amount of money, and women you're always financially dependent, not financially independent to take their own decisions in campaigns. That is also one important reason. And this one here is women politicians they always face harassment, threats, gender-based violence, online trolling. You can see. So if there is any political party which is won through a woman like that, so there will be always trolling. That will be like a hot topic in the social media, and even physical attacks. So because of this, it mainly deters the entry and especially of this women in rural areas. And this one is absence of reservation at the higher level. And this one is lower caste, rural, minority women, they faced compounded discrimination. So because of all these reasons, there is a very less participation of women. And what is the impact of this? So impact here is there is no policy making, especially women related and children related issues are ignored. So if women are part of this political party, if they are part of this making of laws, then they will take the proper steps in women health, maternal health, domestic violence, education, sanitation, etc. So because of lack of women, obviously these areas have been ignored. And next one here is gender stereotypes will happen, and even economic losses will happen. And next one here is there will be weaker substantive representation of women, and not only that, that will lead to the political and social instability as well. So even there is a very bad ranking of India in this global gender gap index, guys. So because of this, yeah, we will be having huge impact on our India as a soft power as well. So actually what can be done? So recently our government passed one bill called as Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam. So actually this was question 2024 mains case. What are the key features of this Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam? So actually this was passed in 2023 and it's nothing but women reservation bill. So this bill says that we have to give reservation, that is 33% of reservation of seats for women in legislative assemblies and as well as parliament. Actually it had not been implemented. Even it passed in 2023, it had not been implemented because we are waiting for our census data. So they said that after we get this census data based on the new population records, we are going to implement this. Okay. And next one is we have to focus on internal party quotas also. We have to mandate to allocate 33% of tickets for women. As of now, they'll give only less than 10% of tickets, right? So we have to make it mandatory that in every political party. So we have to give this 33%. So even, yeah. So have you played quizzes in your school? Quiz. So normally in our school, we used to have cultural activities on every Saturday. So on every Saturday, morning session will be the classes and afternoon session will be entirely cultural activities, and we used to participate a lot in debates, essays, quizzes, singing, dancing. I am like all rounder. Every cultural event I used to get 8 to 9 compulsory awards for me. That will be the tradition which is going on from around 6th class to 10th class. So actually what happened was in that quiz also, whenever we are selecting the group leaders, they won't select the girls. Do you have this? So at that time, our principal, he made a certain changes that in every quiz group, whoever they are having like 8 to 10 students in a group, they need to have mandatory 33% of women. So because of that reason, they used to select the women. So the same way in this political parties also, we need to get this kind of mandatory thing like 33% of tickets should be given for women so that we can enhance this participation of women. And this one is capacity building and education. Like women need to get this leadership skills, public speaking skills, policy making skills. So how we can get all those things? By increasing of educational literacy in this women. So we have to focus on increasing of girls' education. And this one is we have to provide obviously safety and support measures against this gender-based violence in the politics, like subsidies and childcare support for women candidates. And even we can increase awareness and media campaigns through using of this volunteers or NGOs so that we can spread the knowledge to the people, especially in the rural areas. So by taking all these steps, obviously we can improve women's participation in this politics, guys. And see this next article, India gets license to score Indian Ocean for precious metals. So this article is talking about one important thing, that is about polymetallic sulfur nodules. Okay, so this article is talking about polymetallic sulfur nodules. So if you see the location of India, India is strategically located in this Indian Ocean region, right? So here we have Arabian Sea and here we have Bay of Bengal, here we have Indian Ocean. So actually we know that minerals are present in the rocks, right? So actually these rocks are not only present on the land, but even in this ocean bed also we have these minerals which are present. So actually now India got a permission to take out this polymetallic nodules which are there in this Indian Ocean region. So because of this, it is there in the news case. And this topic is very, very important from your geography point of view and from economy point of view. And let us see this article in detail. Okay, so India signed an exploration contract with ISA, that is very, very important, International Seabed Authority. So with International Seabed Authority, India signed a contract, and this contract is for exploration of polymetallic sulfur nodules in Indian Ocean region, especially this Arabian Sea region, in 3 lakh square kilometers area. and it is the first global license specifically for polymetallic sulfur nodules. So actually India already get contract twice, and this is the third time we are signing with this International Seabed Authority. But for the first time we are signing it for sulfide nodules. Earlier we signed for only polymetallic nodules. Okay, they are the combination of other metals, and it is about sulfide metals. Okay, and actually this area which is located at the boundary of two plates, one is Indian plate and second one is Arabian plates. So because of this, sometimes it is very difficult to extract this or exploit this, because you are at the boundary of this plate tectonics. As you know that plates, they will move. So because of this, it can cause earthquakes, it can cause tsunamis, right? So because of this, it is strategically very difficult for our country to explore this polymetallic sulfur nodules now. Okay, actually, what are these polymetallic sulfur nodules? They are rock-like deposits, and they contain high concentration of precious and critical minerals. So please make a note of this, which kind of metals that we can see. That is manganese, cobalt, nickel, copper, trace of gold, silver and platinum. So in here you may get a question in your prelims like, consider the following metals which are seen in this polymetallic sulfur nodules, and they'll give you 4 to 5 and they will ask you. So you have to identify which are right. So from that point of it is very important. This polymetallic sulfur nodules contains manganese, cobalt, nickel, copper, traces of gold, silver and as well as platinum. Okay, so if you see, as I said, this is the third time India got this contract, right? Let us see what are those first and second. So actually the first contract we got in year 2002, and it is about polymetallic nodules in Central Indian Ocean Basin, and it is going to be expired by March 2027. And the second one we got in year 2016, that is for polymetallic sulfides itself in Indian Ocean Ridge. But actually it had not been continued because we have disputes between India and Sri Lanka. So because of this reason, the second contract has been not, we are implementing that. So because of this, for the first time we got this contract in other area where we are not sharing any boundary with any other country, guys. So what are the reasons? What are the reasons behind this license? The first one here is, as you all know that India is importing most of its critical minerals from other countries. We are import dependent on these critical minerals, and these critical minerals that we are getting from China, Australia, Indonesia. We are getting 100% of cobalt from China and Australia, and we are getting nickel from Indonesia. And these metals are very important for the development of electric vehicles, solar panels and defense technology. And actually, if we are not going for this kind of exploration, we should be like economically and as well as critically we have to depend on other countries. So for reducing of import dependency, we need to have this kind of agreement so that India can explore this metals from nearby our Indian Ocean itself. And next one here is strategically geopolitical reasons. So Indian Ocean is the very important maritime route, and even India wants to improve its assertiveness, influence in this Indo-Pacific regions to control these Chinese activities. So because of this, we need to have this agreement. If we are not signing this agreement, of course other country will be signing this agreement for sure. So why we have to give the chance for other countries which are the friends of this China? So because of this, we sign this agreement. And this one is for technological and scientific advancements. Yes, we have to focus on this because India is focusing on improving of its space exploration, right? And even we are focusing on deep sea technology. So here, for this, India signed this agreement. And what is ISA, that is International Seabed Authority? So this International Seabed Authority was established under UNCLOS, that is nothing but United Nations Convention on Law of Seas. And this body will be regulating mineral related activities in international waters. Okay, yeah, see this next article. Title says India's economic ambitions need better gender data. What is this article talking about? So what are the ambitions of our Indian economy? What are the targets of our government of India? Third largest economy, Viksit Bharat by 2047. And next one is, what is the number, like what we have to reach? We have to get this 30 trillion economy. Please make a note. Government of India's target is we have to become $30 trillion economy by 2047. 30 trillions. So what is the current data? That is just 3.7 trillions. That is around how many times more? Around 10 times more, right? So here now the current status of India is $3.7 trillion economy, but we have a target of reaching $30 trillion economy by 2047. So if you want to reach that target, every year we have to maintain this GDP growth of 8 to 10 percentage. And who will drive this GDP growth? Manufacturing sector, services sector, and technology. So, however, these ambitions they are undermined because there is a very low female participation in the economy. That is the thing which mainly saying. So, if you want to reach all those ambitions of India's government in this economy, we have to improve female labor force participation. So, actually, you know that in our population, it is combination of both males and females. But males are contributing to economic activities, but very few women they are contributing to economic activities. So that's the thing which mainly said here. So women are contributing just 18% of our GDP. Okay, so globally, if you see in other countries, women are contributing 37 to 40%, but only in India it is just 18%. That means we are falling behind other countries. We are lagging behind. So here this article is saying that what are the reasons why there is a need of better gender data. So first one is here we can see that there is hidden inequalities in our system. Women are facing lots of barrier regarding entrepreneurship, and even they have very limited credit access. If any women who come forward that whenever they say that yes I want to start a business, will that family members will accept? Will that family members believe that woman that she will be doing business and she will be getting the profits for the family? Obviously no. So there is lack of credit access, and especially in Uttar Pradesh, Women Economic Empowerment Index revealed that there is even very low female participation in transport also. Okay, so that is a reason. And second one is there are lots of data which are saying that women they are not participating in budget also, like policy even in their family. That is also one important thing they said that. And even there is increased dropouts of women, and there is no proper re-entry into the workforce as well. And India is having like around 196 million potential workers, but they are dropping out because of lack of safety and security mechanisms. And this one here is there is very less gender participation, especially yeah, in states like Tamil Nadu, they shows that there is very lower gender gaps, but in states like northern states, they are having more gender gap. Yeah, so what is the reason? The reason here is, as you know, patriarchal society and safety barriers. And even every day, normally in a day, how many hours we have? 24 hours, right? So in this 24 hours, woman has to do compulsory, or woman has to spend compulsory 7.2 hours in their unpaid work. For example, cooking, cleaning, keeping home neat and tidy, and taking care of the children and making them to sleep, changing of beds and bed sheets, and taking care of elderly people. So every day, even if woman is working, they have to spend for sure 7.2 hours daily on unpaid work. But men will be spending just 2.8. In some Orthodox families, they will not even spend even half an hour in this unpaid work. So here there's lots of inequality that we can see here, like how woman is contributing and how men is contributing. And this one is, even if you see the economies like China, so they are focusing like more number of women are working in this labor force. And actually, if we want to achieve the sustainable development goals, that is gender equality, we have to improve participation of women in this economic activities. We have to improve this female labor force participation. And what happens if there is no proper gender data, or if there is very low participation of women? Obviously, it will lead to economic loss. And this one is obvious, it will lead to increasing of inequalities, wage gap, wealth gap, income gap, and even there is social and global diminishment. Like there will be also increasing of gender violence, there will be increasing of safety issues. And this one is policy inefficiencies, as you all know. And this one is in long term, we don't have the proper growth if women are not participating in our economy. Okay, so these are some important topics, and go through this PDF. I gave you the details of even the data that you have to make a note, guys. So without data, without substantiation, you won't get marks in your mains. So whenever you are writing any point, you have to give the data. For example, as I said, there is very low participation of women. What is that percentage of participation of women? You have to write. Then only the examiner will know, like, yes, the statement you said is right. So how can they analyze your statements? Based on the data, based on the examples that you are giving. So what are the points that you are writing in the body? Try to give substantiation for that, examples and data. Okay. So these are the important topics that appeared in our today's Hindi newspaper. By this I'm concluding. Thank you so much, guys, for watching, and please do like this class and share this class to your friends, and do subscribe to Rathod Science Academy. Don't forget, and you can follow us on Telegram channel where we are providing this PDF, and you can also follow us on Instagram. The link is given in the description box. Thank you so much, guys, for watching.